Folks, we're back. This is Steve Sanson and Jim Jonas with another episode of Veterans in Politics. Today, we're going to have Destinee Larosee. She's going to discuss the corruption that has plagued our family court system. And folks, you know, we've been having litigants come on for, 5 years now, Jim?
Yeah.
Talking about this family court system, hoping that somebody out there will get it. And we're going to keep doing it until you do, okay? So somebody will get it, and that's when we will stop.
Yeah.
Probably another 5 years from now, who knows? But anyway.
Hopefully sooner. But
hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully it'll be 5 months from now they'll get it, but
right.
We'll see. And folks, each litigant, when they speak about their case, is very unique to them. And we want you to educate yourself and learn something from each episode and maybe apply it to your case if you're unfortunate enough to be in that position. And just learn. And if you're not, maybe you could direct somebody that is in the system and get them educated as well. So, Jim, do you have any rants or anything?
Yeah, actually, it is kind of a rant. Thank you, Steve, for sending me that thing about Michelle Fury.
Oh, that was mean.
Yeah.
The reason why I send that to you is for you to see the type of bull crap that's out there that people do to discredit candidates. But I never publicly post that. I just send it to certain people in private just to see.
The reason why I wanted to thank you for sending that to me is because you know you're significant and people see you as a threat when they start posting stuff like that and they start putting stuff like that out there. Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate because I honestly believe that's the reason why a lot of people don't run for public office is because of this garbage that comes out.
Yes.
And even though it's been a while since you've run for public office, but you get criticized a lot.
On a daily.
You know. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the fact that, like, people are, for whatever reason in today's society, we've come to this point where people are afraid of the truth.
Mm-hmm. Remember that show? You can't handle the truth.
Right. Yeah. So, and they come up with all kinds of craziness. Some of the stuff that I've heard about you over the years, I just laugh because I'm like, you don't know him. Mm-hmm. You don't know him at all. They don't know Michelle Fury. Mm-hmm. But I wanted it to be more about Michelle because actually I commend her on the fact that they're doing that to her because that means they see her as a legitimate threat. Mm-hmm. And now this isn't an official endorsement by me of Michelle as far as running for governor. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you one thing. I've met very few people that are willing to speak their mind as much as she does and work as hard as she does.
Yes.
So I think there's some there's some stuff going on there, but I think they're just afraid and they want to discredit her because they know damn well, like whether she gets elected or not.
She's a ball buster. She's going to get the job done.
And I can guarantee you, she'll outwork you.
You know, it's so funny because there is a mini commercial that's on my Facebook page, and it talks about how then President Trump was working his ass off, going to this state, rallying here, rallying there, and how Biden was sitting, or President Biden, was sitting in his basement while one guy's in his basement, the other guy's out there working, and how that one won, the one that was in his basement. Like, how did that happen? Yeah. But I guess that's another story for another day. But I just wanted to mention that. And I also wanted to mention that apparently that there is some problems with the water in Hawaii. And
yeah, I heard that from
did you see that?
Madoff. Yeah.
Apparently, there's
You
some
can elaborate more
diesel leak or something going on, and the levels are so high, and the Navy's the one that's causing the pollution of the water in Hawaii. And I'm surprised it's not hitting the mainstream media.
Yeah.
You know, that's crazy, but it is what it is. I mean, the media is not the way it used to be anymore.
No.
You know? So.
Well, no, because now the media, it's all opinion. Like, for instance, like what we do here, it's called a podcast for a reason, right? So we do give our opinions. But what's unfortunate now is because there's too many people that are actually just giving opinions, not hard facts. Right. On both sides of the aisle, and it's taken as hard news, or like so many people, the only research they ever do is through Google.
Yeah. So.
And yeah, it's sad, but we'll keep plugging away at it though.
Keep plugging away, baby. So we have Destinee Larosee, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Destinee, tell us a little bit about yourself. Thank you for coming on the show, by the way.
Well, thank you for having me. So my name is Destinee Larosee. I'm a mom. I have 3 kids. Today we'll be talking about 2 of them.
Have 3?
I do. I have 3.
How old are you?
I'm 26 now. But we'll be talking about my 2 older boys.
Okay.
I just had a baby 5 weeks ago.
Oh, congrats.
Yep. Thank you. I am in school full-time still. I just got my bachelor's in criminal justice.
Beautiful.
Back in May.
Congrats.
And then, thank you. I was going to take a break from school, and then I decided I would enroll again. So I got my minor in sociology.
Huh.
And
got a smarty pants in our hands here.
Yeah.
So I went back now, and I'm just getting my full bachelor's in sociology.
Okay.
And throughout this time, I'm at UNLV, and I've been a victim advocate at UNLV, and we'll get into kind of why, obviously. So that's pretty much my life right now is school, advocacy, and trying to advocate for myself, because nobody's going to fight harder for yourself than yourself. Yeah.
Exactly.
So
why don't you tell us about your case?
Okay, so
how it all started. And where it is now.
Okay. So my case, it started actually almost a year ago to the date, or not a year, I'm sorry, 3 years.
3 years ago.
3 years.
Okay.
Okay. So I had just had my second son. He was about 3 months old. And then my older one was about a year and a half.
Okay.
And where this all started, well, I had expressed to my now ex-husband that I was just...
How long were you married for?
2 years.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was just at 2 years. But before that, like before the incident happened, I had expressed to him, I was like, I'm not happy. You're clearly not happy.
Right.
I went through the whole like, okay, what can I do to please you? Like, you know, which I can explain too. It's just the cycle of violence. I was like, let me make this marriage work for my children, for myself, to say I put every effort I had in me. Even if it wasn't making me happy, I was determined to say, you know what, I exhausted every possible thing I could do for myself and my kids. Wasn't good enough. And we had said, okay, we're going to separate. And it was around the holiday time. So he was just sleeping downstairs. I was upstairs. We were just kind of living together, not officially filed for divorce or anything.
Okay.
He was back and forth like, I hate you so much. I want to divorce you. I'm staying married to you, though, just to make you miserable. And like, then it would be the next day, no, I love you. Please stay with me. Don't leave me. Oh. And it was just like this
he was
constant,
on a roller coaster
like,
ride.
Yeah. And then he would say, like, if I can't have you, nobody can. I'm going to make sure you're miserable.
You know, that's a personality disorder, right? Just to let you know.
Yes, I do.
Some have it. Some people have it. But some people have it like way extreme.
Yeah. And it definitely really started to come out then. It was just like this possessive, like, you're not going anywhere. I have control of you. Right. And that's when I really was like, okay, I need to get out of this.
Know that comes from low self-esteem as well.
Yeah. So that was going on for like a few months. I don't know exactly the dates.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then December 15th, 2018, I will get emotional here.
That's okay.
So I was just trying to, I'm going to make this short and not have all the details, but I was trying to get ready for bed.
We like details. But you tell it the way you want.
Okay. My older son was in the bathroom with me. We were upstairs and I was just kind of getting ready for bed. Mm-hmm. The details of this will be fuzzy because at a point I become unconscious. So I can't remember verbatim. I can't remember specifics.
Okay. Just whatever you can remember.
He comes up and our baby was at my mom's house staying the night because my oldest and I were supposed to leave town the next morning. Okay. So he comes in and he's saying pretty degrading things, and
you could curse on this show, by the way.
Yeah. He just saying some awful things, okay? And saying like, well, you owe me sex, and if you don't have sex with me, I'm not going to divorce you. And my naive, uneducated self at the time was like, oh my gosh, he can do that? He can, choose not to divorce me? So he like tried like everything, and I was like, no, like I'm not having sex with you. I haven't had sex with you. I verbally was like, no, not happening. Right. In the back of my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, he's not going to divorce me now. But I like stood my ground, which he didn't like. He picked up my 1.5-year-old who came in the bathroom and he was crying, and he went and he threw him in the bed. So it's like bedroom, like bathroom. It all connects.
Right.
So he threw him in the bed and turned up the TV. And I was like, no, just leave me alone. My cousins are down the hall.
He threw your
son in the bed.
Son, how old is he? 1.5?
Yeah, 1.5. Okay. And he threw him in bed. And
was he hurt when he did that?
Crying. I don't know. And I was like, please just stop. Like, leave us alone. Like, go out. Just go to bed, like,
right.
Leave us alone. And he takes me into the closet and he like shoves me in the closet. And like I said, I don't remember the details because he slams me against the wall. My head hits the wall. And then he has his hands around my neck and he shoves me to the ground, like on my knees.
He was strangling you?
Yeah. He was strangling me. And then he, forces his penis in my mouth and forces me to perform oral fellatio on him. And I went unconscious and he was strangling me, and I don't obviously remember, and I could hear him saying things to me, but I don't know. I couldn't make it out, I just know. And then like I went unconscious, and it was weird because then when I kind of came to, I was laying on the floor and I was like gagging for air, or I don't know. I was trying to breathe and I was trying to spit, and he kind of walks by and he's like, it'll happen again next time. It'll be worse or whatever. And I don't know if he says anything else. And then he kind of walks out and like just leaves me on the floor. Whatever. I like lay there, eventually get myself up, and I go in to like crawl in bed, and I'm like looking, and I just remember being so confused. Like, how did my son, like, he was asleep. He was calm and asleep last time. I remember he was just crying. And
was the TV still turned up at this point?
Yeah, it was still on, and I just remember thinking that's weird, and then like I faded out again. Like
Do you live close to neighbors?
No, and the side of the house where the room was on.
So you were in the house?
Yeah. Like
windows shut?
Yeah, everything was shut. But my cousins were down the hall. It was a pretty large house, but they were like a few bedrooms down.
So there was more people living in the house.
Yeah, and I don't know, they were going to bed or whatever, and they probably just, I don't.
So, did you call the cops?
No. So that's where everyone loves to say I waited so long, even though like domestic violence and sexual assault are very underreported.
You do understand domestic violence combination of strangulation is a felony.
Yes, and he did end up getting felonies. But the next day I went out of town with my grandpa like I had planned. It was just me, my son, and my grandpa. And I was still like in disbelief. Like the trauma response that I had was, I kind of was trying to block it out. I was trying to and I was embarrassed. I think that's another thing that victims feel, that it's kind of hard to
you got to get
come
past
forward.
That to come up front.
And it makes you feel like, wow, did that really just happen? Because then the next morning he was like, oh, I love you. Have a good trip. And
like nothing happened.
Yeah. And so it made me even more confused. I was like, okay, so he helped us get in the car to go out of town. And it was like, okay, I love you. And I hadn't said I loved him in months. And then I was like, okay, I love you. Like I was scared and I was confused. Okay. So I went out of town, and then that day he went snowboarding with his best friend, and his best friend and his...
How old is
he? He's 27.
At the time.
So at the time he was, 24? Okay. His best friend and his wife, I guess, like...
His new wife.
No, his best friend with his best friend's wife.
Oh,
yeah. They got all involved. So I guess my ex-husband, he went snowboarding, and he told his best friend about what had happened, and he was bragging to him like, oh yeah, like I got off to her, not liking it and being in pain. I got off to her being unconscious, whatever he told his best friend.
Rape.
Yeah. So some people have fetishes. But yeah, so he told his best friend. His best friend was like, are you okay? He was bragging about what had happened. So the best friend's wife went to my mom too and was like, oh, do you know what happened? And I hadn't really told my mom. I hadn't told anybody really. I told my grandpa, I was like, oh, if you knew what happened last night, like we probably wouldn't be going out of town or whatever. And my grandpa's like, are you okay? And I was like, oh. And then we kind of brushed it off because I still didn't, I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know. I was uneducated too, which is a big problem. So whatever, time passes. We come home. I go and I go to the police station when we get back in town.
How long from the incident to you went to the police station? Happened
technically Saturday night, maybe around 10 p.m. or whatever. And then I get back Tuesday afternoon and I go to the police and I file a report. Well, they wanted me to go down to UMC and have my SANE exam done,
They did a rape kit on you?
Yeah, they did the rape kit. And what I wrote in my statement and stuff, I guess, was good enough for the police to actually go out and look for him, at that time, which is, I guess, rare. They don't always just go right out and arrest the person right away. I mean, so they kept me at the hospital. They, interviewed me. They questioned me. So by that time I had written a police report. I had to, talk to the nurse and tell her everything that happened. And that was really traumatizing, obviously, having to go through that exam. And then after that I had to talk to the detectives, and then they kept me there and they were trying to find him before they would so they kept me in a safe space before they went to get.
Did you have any physical bruises or marks or anything?
If you're asking me or if you're asking his attorney, the Levitts, they say I didn't have any physical evidence. But that night at the SANE exam, so from Saturday night to Tuesday, I still had petechial hemorrhaging inside of my throat caused by strangulation.
Did you have any bruising on the neck?
No. So that's what everybody loves to say. Well, you sent him pictures of you guys at Disneyland and you didn't have bruising on your neck. So they count that I didn't have any physical proof. But I did have the internal petechial hemorrhaging. And then they obviously did find the semen in the carpet, and they ripped out the carpet in my closet and they kept that for evidence. And it all matched, of course. And so, yeah, they did have evidence. Whether his attorneys like to admit it or not. Somehow every time, in criminal court and in family court, there was there was no physical evidence. She didn't have any markings. Well, I did in my rape kit, you can see, and I have copies of that, but they failed to believe that. So yeah, I did all that. And then he was arrested. He got out on bail. And then the family court process got involved, of course. I was granted an emergency TPO for myself.
Back up just 1 sec. What was he arrested for? What was the charge?
His original charges, this is kind of important. So his original charges were, sex assault, battery by strangulation to commit sex assault, and domestic battery by strangulation.
Those are all felonies.
Yes. Well, kind of to skip forward a little, but I testified for 2.5 hours at prelim, which is an insanely long amount of time. Generally, you only...
Justice court?
Yeah, in criminal court. Generally,
who was a judge when you testified? Do you know?
I've had so many judges, so...
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah, I can't really recall, but you only need a little bit of burden of proof, which should take 30 minutes, I hear, for prelim, not very long. Well, after my 2.5 hours of testifying and his attorneys coming at me like, so he strangled you like this, and like approaching the stand and, re-traumatizing me, the judge, so they thought they were going to get things dropped. The judge ended up adding first-degree kidnapping because he took me into the closet and closed the door and strangled me. So he thought he was going to get things reduced, but the prelim testimony was enough to add more charges to him. So
was he convicted of any of these charges?
So he ended up being convicted. Well, he took a plea deal. And here's where he thinks like he gets all this extra like immunity. He took an Alford plea. So an Alford plea is saying, I'm going to take a plea deal instead of going to trial, but I'm not admitting guilt. I'm not owning up to my, what I did, my actions. You still got consequences, but he's saying, well, I didn't do it. So guilty, but yeah.
So what kind of deal did he take?
He pled guilty to second-degree kidnapping, coercion sexually motivated, battery by strangulation, and battery constituting domestic violence. I think the last one's just a misdemeanor.
Okay. So now he's convicted of all these.
Yeah, and a part of the deal was he could argue prison time, but mandatory sex registration. So he's a sex offender. Okay. But he ended up getting 6 months in jail, which is ironic because people say like, oh, you should be lucky he was convicted at all, which is unfortunate.
That you should be lucky.
Yeah, because, well, at least he was convicted, because most of the time people will just get off. There's not enough proof ever. Or there's, XYZ comes into play and they're just not convicted. Or a lot of times the victims are kind of, especially if it's somebody you were involved with, they're more likely to step down or somebody's going to convince them otherwise. So that's why it's just very underreported and, people don't come forward. And it's easily dropped because especially most perpetrators are going to be like an intimate partner or, a family member or somebody It's not that you're walking down a dark alley and you're just going to get raped by a stranger. It's more likely going to be someone you know. So I should be lucky that he got anything.
So this guy's now a registered sex offender.
Yes.
He has several felonies on his record. And he's the father of how many kids?
My 2 sons. The biological father, yes.
Of your 2 sons. But you had a third kid. Who's the father of the third?
That is my boyfriend, and he is amazing. And
okay, I don't want to mix him in the mix.
Yeah.
That's for the youngest one you just had.
Yes.
Right? Okay. So you go to family court for your 2 eldest, right? Okay. Go for it.
From family court, well, the TPO is involved in the family court, and I was granted an emergency TPO, which a lot of times will cover the mother, and if there's kids involved, the kids won't always, be a part of that TPO. Well, the judges in family court who I originally had thought that this was severe and dangerous enough, they included my children in this TPO to cover them and, you know, keep them safe. So I've had them, and I was granted in our divorce sole physical custody.
Who was the judge that did your divorce?
I believe it was still Judge Ducksworth, but he was following the order from the judge who did, it was a female, I cannot remember her name, but she granted me sole physical custody and he continued to award it. Okay. So now fast forward, he's sentenced, he gets out of jail. He got out of jail at the beginning of January this year. Okay. And from then on, he's been taking me to court, trying to fight for visitation of the children. Mm-hmm. And now it's been 3 years. They have no recollection of him. They don't know of him, my children. They literally don't.
Because they were young at the time.
Yeah, they were so young. Okay. But, so he is trying to get visitation. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Okay. And the judge, I guess, decided just recently, like, he's deemed safe for the children. Not only for visitation, but kind of going against my sole physical custody, and is granting him every other weekend from Thursday to Sunday, overnight, unsupervised. Which, of course, you know, the only hoop he has to jump through is he has 4 visitations with the therapist and the kids for the kids to even meet him. So after 4 hours.
So let me just stop you right there, Destinee. So this dad has several felonies on his record. Registered sex offender. Mm-hmm. Just got out of the detention center after 6 months, right? Mm-hmm. And he's gotten the children don't know him, and he's got unsupervised visits of his children.
Yeah. The courts don't see there to be a problem because he didn't do anything to the children. Mm-hmm. They only did something to me. And his attorney, Ben Levitt, his point in court was like, well, let's say it did happen.
How did he even get the money to hire Levitt?
His family runs a land surveying company, and okay. I guess they're pretty successful. Okay. But in court, his attorney was like, well, allegedly this happened, allegedly, because based off the Alford plea, they went with the, tactic. Well, allegedly this happened. We don't know. He pled guilty because he didn't think he had good odds at trial.
He pled guilty to several felonies.
But it's an Alford plea.
Did you attach the police report to any of your cases in family court?
Yeah, they had.
And the judge has all this.
Yeah, the judge has all of that, but it's alleged because of the Alford plea.
So let me just chime in real quick, just for 1 second, if you don't mind.
No, absolutely.
See, this is what is frustrating about the family court system in general, is the inconsistencies. Mm-hmm. So they're willing to give this guy custody, even though it's not full custody, but still unsupervised custody. And then I think his last name is D'Souza.
Lifetime restraining order.
Lifetime restraining order. So when you go into family court, there's really no guidelines.
No.
Like, you don't know. It's like, it's almost like the judge just flips a quarter.
Well, the judge said he was going to be very thorough, and because there's domestic...
Yeah, well, I know you're judge, yeah. So anyway.
Well, he said...
I want to make it more about you. I don't want to attack your judge, but...
Yeah. He said because there's domestic violence, they actually could not change my custody. They could only grant visitation. Well, to me, it seems like a custody change with giving all that time.
Yeah.
But his attorney, back to that, said, well, it was just this one time. He snapped on her once. He sat there and said, so let's pretend this did happen. It was only one time he snapped on her.
How many felonies? And that's just once?
Well, yeah, that was just the one incident. Well, it was just one time though. So you're telling me that one time is okay?
I'm gonna go shoot up a whole bunch of people just
but
one
just
time.
one time.
One
so you're not a
time
bad
and then-
person
I'm
if
good to
it's
go.
one.
I just snapped that one time.
Yeah,
I'm
and I
all
do
right.
6 months, and then it's
Yeah.
all's forgotten.
So I can't risk having that
While you
one
have a
time with my
lifetime-
children.
While you have a lifetime of bad memories in
Yeah.
your head and probably develop some type of post-traumatic stress disorder because of it.
Yeah.
Can I ask you one other question real quick? Because I know the judge you're talking about. If you don't mind, just say you don't want to answer the question if you don't, because this is a pretty personal question. Would you mind divulging your religion?
My religion?
Yeah.
I would just say Christian.
Okay.
So,
Because that's important to this judge.
yeah.
I'm just going to throw that out there.
Yeah.
Okay. Please continue.
He's saying that the judge is a Mormon religion, and if you are Mormon, he probably would be more on your side than he would on Dad's side, who has a high-priced lawyer like the Levitts, who the judge is probably thinking about his campaign, donations and or what have you. So that's how they think.
Okay.
Who was your judge, by the way?
My attorney?
I mean, sorry, your attorney, yes.
Joe Houston.
Joe Houston.
Yeah.
Okay.
But with all of that said, the big day we had in court, it was an all-day court hearing to kind of go over this custody visitation thing. It was all very much about criminal court. It was just arguing whether or not this happened. It was making me go into explicit details again of what had happened to me that night, and having a bunch of people just trying to say, oh, this didn't happen. And it wasn't about my children. It was like their chance to tell family court, look, he's not a bad guy. He didn't do any of this. He took the plea just so he didn't have to go to trial, but he's not a bad guy. He didn't do this. Listen, hear about the criminal side. It wasn't about, what's in the best interest of my kids. They hardly wanted to talk about the children and visitation and stuff. And at one point, his attorney asked me well, if he wanted to sign over his rights, would you just be okay with that? And I said, yeah, and that's it. And then he wouldn't let me elaborate. Everything, it was don't elaborate. Don't explain yourself, which to me, it's not always just yes or no. There's yes, because X, Y, Z. I have my own facts, if you will, of why. And I think those are important, not just a yes or a no. Well, why would I say, no, you can't sign over your rights? So I felt like I was kind of, coerced into what he wanted me to say. And it's the moment I tried to say anything further, it didn't matter. It was nope, that's all I asked you. So I was very shut down. So the decision comes and the judge basically said, well, I am trying to keep the father out of the kid's life. I want the kids to have nothing to do with him. I basically just want his rights gone. And I mean... And
something, after you experience what you experienced, why wouldn't you think that way?
Mother, father, protective person would not want to send their children with an abuser. So they basically said I was, this is just paraphrasing, but not cooperating. If I was asked a question I didn't remember, well, I was strangled. I'm sorry. I was unconscious. I can't give you details on everything. And they went off of, well, there was no abuse in the relationship prior. Well, when they were asked, well, did he hit you before? No, he never hit me before that. But I'm going to be a nerd, but there's so much that goes into abuse. There's sexual, physical, emotional abuse, using isolation, keeping me away from my family and friends. And then financial. I was a stay-at-home mom, and he would tell me, if I wanted money, I had to have sex with him, or, well, you haven't earned it. And then he'd be like, I'm just kidding. or whatever. But like, you know, this is the power and control. Violence is more than
emotional abuse. Sometimes is much, much worse than physical abuse.
Yeah, it takes a lot to undo.
Yeah.
And do you know if they take your house keys or your cell phone or your car keys, or if they block your entrance from leaving, that's also domestic violence as well?
A week prior, because this does matter, but to court it doesn't matter because nothing was reported. But like a week prior, I was crying because he was trying to take my oldest son. It's always about my oldest son. He had no connection to my baby. I'm just throwing that out there because it bothers me. Right. But he had my older son and he was taking him and he was like, I'm leaving with him. I'm taking him away. Like, I don't know. He's like, because you're not leaving me. Like, it was another like, we're not getting divorced skit he had, like, oh, I'm going to take the baby. And like, I was on the phone with my grandpa crying and I was like, can you please come here? Like, I don't know what to do. I'm scared. And then he like set the baby down and left or whatever. And cause he got, I guess, scared. But like, there's just so much more. It's not like throughout this family court case, they're like, well, nothing's reported. You know, he took an Alford plea. Whatever happened before doesn't matter.
He's still a registered sex offender.
Yeah. But because they're his own biological kids, I guess it's.
So
I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm.
Right. So where's your case now?
So I filed a motion for a rehearing, and Ducksworth just actually this week, shit hit the fan again. He denied it, and he threw on a little statement because I'm prolonging this now. Next year, he gets the kids for Christmas and Thanksgiving because I went against.
Maybe Judge Duckworth needs to kind of experience what you experienced for him to actually get it.
Right? Most people don't.
I think some of these judges need to actually experience those moments to really understand the psychological damage and the physical damage that took place.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that is interesting to me, listening to everything you've explained and how your case has proceeded, is it's almost like one of the reasons why there's a lot of attorneys that won't even take family court cases, because it's almost like the judge and the attorneys are mixing criminal and family law together. Like they're saying, oh, like when you were talking about, do you think his rights should be taken away? That's a 14th Amendment argument. You're not an attorney. Yeah. You shouldn't have to answer that. So that is civil or actually it's criminal law. But then when it comes to their decisions, if their decisions are criticized at all, now all of a sudden, well, family court is civil and we have discretion based under the best needs of the kids. So that's why a lot of attorneys won't even touch family court anymore.
They call it a kangaroo court.
Yeah, because they have no idea what they're going to get when they come into that.
Yeah.
Besides the fact of all the emotional stuff you've been through.
Yeah.
So right now, what does the order say?
The order stands as every other weekend from Thursday to Sunday, and then something about every other holiday or something. I didn't really.
So he has no supervised visits. Never had any supervised visits.
So no, he has 4 therapy sessions with the kids to meet him.
Okay.
And so that's 4 hours, and then he can take them and do whatever, and have them overnight, and no
child
supervision.
Support? Is he paying child support?
He's been paying like $23 or something. I think a week.
$23 a week in child support.
He makes $8,000 in a month.
A month.
Yeah.
And he pays $23 a week.
I guess that's still getting worked out.
Are you sure about that? $23 a week?
That's
2 kids?
But they're working that out. I don't know. I don't care about the money as much. I'm like,
the money's not for you. The money's for your kids.
Yeah. But I'll take care of my kids. Like, I want to make sure they're safe, you know? And like the biggest, thing is they just don't really care about the safety of the kids. They care about, you know, again, it's all about the defendant and making sure we're giving the defendant all of his rights and not overstepping anything there.
The victim has no rights.
Yeah. And it's about, you know, paternal rights and DNA, basically, not about, wow, this person's going to impact the children in a positive way and keep the kids safe. And nobody really seems to care about the best interests of my children, especially, so like I'm told there's not a lot of cases like mine, which I could say otherwise because I've done a lot of my own research. But they say like the best interest of the children is to have both parents or whatever. And just because he was abusive to you doesn't mean he'll be abusive to the children. Okay, well, let's at least start slow, maybe. Like start through Donna's house or something else, not unsupervised overnight.
Have you done a background check on your ex?
Besides like what I know?
Yeah. See if there's anything else out there?
No, but I guess there's not, based off of criminal court. But the thing that people don't realize is like, he wants to get at me in every way. He made that clear to me, you know, before we got divorced, that he would do what he could to, you know, hurt me. And it's like, he has this chance now to just.
Do you still have a restraining order on him?
Criminal court, when he was sentenced, has a no contact order. That's another thing.
So how do you guys exchange children?
It hasn't started yet.
Oh,
it has not started yet. I'm going to try to still fight it.
So you filed a motion to reconsider with Ducksworth.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, of course, he's not going to go back on his own
decision. Are you going to appeal the case?
Yeah.
Okay.
Trying to get that going right now. I don't remember.
Okay.
The one thing, too, that you said, so he's already stated that he'll do anything he can to get back at you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it wasn't reported, so it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, see, that's the thing that stinks, because if he's already made that statement, just because, so when we're talking about custody, if they're going to make the case that, well, he didn't do anything to the children, well, if he's going to get back at you, he's going to get back at you through the kids.
Yeah.
So that could be, I mean, the guy's already a felon. I mean, that could be doing harm to the kids or just talking bad about you to try to turn your kids on you.
See, that is some of my biggest fears. That's why I think if this is going to happen and it's out of my control, like there needs to be better safety protocols in place to ensure that my children are okay. Because I was manipulated by him. When we first started dating, he lived in a trailer making $10 an hour, drinking and getting high all the time. And I mean, does not reflect well on me. But he was like convincing. He was like, I want to do better. I'm going to do better. I helped him get out of debt. I helped him start paying his student loans. We got an apartment together eventually. And like, I was like, oh, he's going to do better. Like I was impressed, you know? And then I got caught up. And then this explains it. But like, it was the honeymoon phase. Everything was great. And then like, tension would build, you know, something would happen. He wasn't happy or whatever. And then that would be the explosion. So people are like, well, he was good to you. And like at the end, when we were going to get divorced, I was like, look, I don't want to hurt you. I just want to find myself. I want to do better for myself. And we're not good for each other. And I didn't have any necessarily red flags until the assault and like it all built up. But I was like, I would have never thought he was that bad of a guy because he told me he loved me.
What would you tell other women out there that's in the same predicament or something similar as yours?
Like, so if somebody knows they're in a toxic
Relationship.
oh man.
What would you say to them?
There's really not a blanket way to leave. There's not going to be an easy way to leave. But if I would have left when I started getting those red flags, and I think you got to be swift and probably not overly explain to your abuser you're going to leave. Because that's I think for me, in my situation and my abuser, he knew I was trying to leave. I was trying to be, reasonable with him and, work it out and leave the right way. Well, then he had time to think about it. And that's when the assault happened. And the nurse at UMC even told me I was lucky that he didn't have me unconscious one more minute, that he wasn't strangling me another minute, because I had a potential of not to live. He was blocking my airways and strangling me. Yeah. And I had to be told, it could have been deadly. So I don't think there's a best advice for everyone, but in my situation, I probably should have, maybe.
And it seems like you get re-victimized by him and by the system.
Yeah, and it's not easy. And some days I think, oh my gosh, I should have stayed, which no, I don't. I don't think that. But that would have been easier. Right. There are so many easier things. The hard way, it sucks, but it gets better. And that's cliche. And I hated hearing that when I first started. Mm-hmm. But you have to leave for your safety and your child's safety. And my other piece of advice is do not stop fighting. You have to continue to fight no matter what, especially if you have kids. You have to do it for them. My kids are what saved my life. I truly believe. And I have to keep fighting for their lives. I have all of my stuff here. So it's reported that more than 800 children have been reported murdered by a parent going through divorce or separation in the United States since 2008. At least 100 of those cases, including rejected pleas, is where family court systems actually failed. They didn't want to intervene. So it's you can't tell me you can't find stuff on this. There's research. It's just concealed. They try to not bring it to light, and it needs to be. And another thing, you kind of talked about, people making the final decision, such as judges, don't have specialized training on domestic violence or family abuse dynamics. So a lot of judges, I don't necessarily know the requirements here, but they have domestic violence 101, and that's it. There's not furthered education. We need to make people informed. We need to show them. I had, again, his attorney, my ex's attorney, sat there and acted like he didn't know anything about domestic violence. And my attorney was like, it's underreported. You don't know these statistics about sex assault and domestic violence. And you're an attorney for how many years and you don't know these things?
They're just playing stupid.
Exactly.
Yeah, he was just playing stupid because he was trying to defend his client and get money.
Of course, yeah, it's a skit, but it's there's so much out there, and people aren't using it correctly. It's not being involved. It's just being ignored and swept under the rug in family court. It's DNA matters more than the safety of a child.
Have we covered everything you would like covered?
Yeah, I just, I said, I have a lot of instances. There's a case where a dad, this was just in May of 21, where he killed his child and then killed himself. And there's text messages that he sent to the mom saying, "You are not allowed to date other people. It's either me or no one, or I will remove child support. And the choice is yours." And he said, "You deserve to have your head separated from your body."
Oh,
but
boy.
I'm not the violent type. God will deal with you. And Like, this mom pled in family court and said, like, look, this is not a sane person right now. Like, and family court just dismissed her, and the kid was killed. And I just want to protect my children, and I don't. Yeah.
Well, Destinee, we would like to thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you.
and sharing your story with everybody, because it has to be told, because people just don't understand, especially people that have never been in that situation before. They have no concept of what you're saying. I sure didn't. So I'm glad you came on to explain that and share your personal story with everybody. But I'd like you to get the final word, and Mark is going to zoom in on you, and you could, talk about whatever. Maybe you want to move your hair, and so he could show that shirt and explain what that shirt says.
So it says, there is nothing in the best interest about family court. So this is a Family Court Awareness Month that was just last month in November. It's newer, but yeah, there's no best interest of the child. I mean, I don't think anybody here listening would probably agree that a violent sex offender should have unsupervised overnight visitation. I think that's not in the best interest of a child. That's not safe, I don't believe. There needs to be, precautions and steps and awareness and safety. That should be more important than someone's DNA. Like, for my children, they have no idea of this person, and we're just going to hand them over. And that mentally is not good for a child. Who even is an abusive. I think, there needs to be that slowness, and, children need to be nurtured and cared about more than just thrown around and used as a pawn. Advice I have is, try to talk with people, do your own research. Don't listen when people say there's nothing out there. Just advocate for yourself and stay strong. I mean, it gets better. It's hard, but especially if you have children, you have to fight for them at least. And that's kind of what's kept me going so.
If you want to give a point of contact, you don't have to. You could give an email or whatever you're comfortable with giving.
So I do have an email. My email is destineeg817@gmail.com. DESTINEEG817@gmail.com. And if you need help, advice, anything, if you want to help me, just feel free to email me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Jim?
No, I want to reiterate, these are not easy subjects to talk about. And for you to be willing to come on and take time out to explain what you're going through means a lot. And I think that I could get into a whole rant about I think maybe one of the things that other men can do is that if you notice a friend that is exhibiting these type of behaviors, I know that they're really good at hiding it, but you should probably point that out too. Because in this case specifically, it was obviously the man that was a perpetrator. And if you notice that a friend of yours or even somebody else, another man, is exhibiting these type of behaviors and you recognize it, you have a responsibility to have a conversation with that person, or if it gets to that level, go to law enforcement before it gets to this level, because kids are way more important than your dumb pride. And I just, again, thank you very much.
Can I add to that, kind of on the reverse side? If you have a friend coming to you expressing that their boyfriend or girlfriend is, you know, exhibiting any of these traits either, like, try talking to your friend, like, you know, trying to make them rethink about like the situations they might have came to you with or experienced. Because if I would have opened up to friends saying some of the things like throughout our whole relationship that had happened, if I had a friend that was like, you know, that doesn't seem safe, or that seems a little concerning, maybe we should, you know, talk about it more. I think that's another thing too that's important.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you so much, Jim.
Thank you.
Folks, that's Destinee Larosee, and she was explaining her case in the Clark County Family Court System, how a felon could actually get unsupervised visits thanks to Judge Bryce Duckworth. Hi, Judge. Judge Bryce Duckworth never gets it. I don't know. I think he has his head up his ass, but that's just my opinion. That's right, Judge. I did say you got your head up your ass. You know how I feel about you. This is Steve Sanson, Jim Jones for Veterans in Politics. Until next time.